Hey guys, welcome to our American Dream Masterclass. We have an amazing special guest, Addie with Business Success Consulting Group. Today we're going to speak about something that I think is very important. That's really secret in terms of, taking your business to the next level. Sometimes it might sound a little, boring or this or that, but the reality is that it's very, very important. How to get your processes documented and followed. So I'll let you take it from here, Addie. So good to see you and have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome, Stephen. Thank you for having me. Yes, we're going to talk about process documentation and how to make it followed by all. And
Mm,
this is a subject that is very important for businesses that want to grow and scale. A business gets to a certain point, they have the marketing, they
mhm.
get leads. Now they have, it's not now, it's a business that is fast growing, lacking consistency. And we're going to talk about best practices on how to make sure they can systematize the business.
I think that's one of the most important things and overlooked things as well.
I think
I'm
so
looking
too.
forward to it.
You're absolutely right. So first of all, as you introduced me, my name is Adi. I'm the founder of Business Success Consulting Group, and that's what we do day in and day out. We create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures for businesses so they can thrive, they can grow, they can scale, open other locations. The owner can extract themselves out of the business and not necessarily be in the business all the time.
Mm.
So my background is industrial engineering. Process is something that I'm very familiar with. I love putting order into companies, and I have a team that works with me. And I'm going to give you a lot of examples and case studies and tips that we use daily in order to systematize businesses.
Perfect. Let's get to
Yeah.
it.
Well, the first thing, Stephen, you're very big on that, and so am I, is the why. If we don't understand the why of doing something, then there is no point. And I
Mm.
tell people all the time, I tell entrepreneurs that we deal with, if you do not know why you are documenting, if you didn't really define that and don't have a goal of why documenting, there is no point in documenting. So let's talk about why documentation. So here are some of the main reasons that entrepreneurs give us of why they want to document. Before I show the slide,
Mm.
I would like to ask our audience to actually think about it for themselves. Like, what is your why? Why do you want to document processes and procedures? Steve, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah,
Why do
please.
you think processes and procedures, why is it so important to document them?
I think from all the connections I've had with people that have really gone to the next level, it prepares your business to be scalable. And then it also makes your business exit ready. So when people want to buy your business because you're making money and they see that you have systems, procedures, operations, and everything's organized, they love that. They love that.
Absolutely. That
Hmm.
is definitely on top of the list. They want it so why documentation is important? Consistency. You want to
Hmm.
make sure that what you're doing is consistent every single time. That you're getting the same results. That if every customer service representative, as an example, we give the same results to your customer. It's not that they're going to go to N and get a fantastic treatment, but then when Joe answers the phone, you cringe and you go, oh, it's not, I know that we're not going to get the same results.
Hmm.
Risk mitigation. You want to make sure, again, that when you are selling, you are getting the same results every single time. Not just that's an example in terms of
Yeah.
selling. When you're producing, whatever you're doing, you want to make sure that you can control the outcome. Onboarding. When you're onboarding and training new employees, you want to make sure that you have an onboarding system that is the same for each one and that can actually be created correctly and can be followed every single time. Now, great culture. You gotta have processes documented if you want to
Mm.
create a culture of accountability, a culture of people feeling that there is clarity, good communication, that they know what's going on. So definitely having a great culture is very important. If you want to
Agreed.
scale, if you want expansion, as you mentioned, very important. If you want to open different locations, you want to duplicate yourself.
Absolutely.
We had, both of us had the honor of speaking with Michael Gerber. You had him in
Yeah.
one of the masterminds. He's the author of E-Myth, but that's exactly what it is. It's like the
Mhm.
duplication, the replication, the scaling. You have to have a system.
Mhm.
Knowledge transfer. Like even today, I was talking to a client where he was mentioning that he has this woman that works for him. And she's like a walking encyclopedia, a walking database of all the technical knowledge. Well, if she's not there, then all the knowledge is gone. So we're actually extracting the knowledge from her head and creating a knowledge base, also utilizing AI together, but to create this internal knowledge base for the organization so other people can ask the questions, but also the customers can ask the questions as opposed to having to call and talk to a specific person. They can
Mhm.
be exposed to all that knowledge. And as you mentioned, for selling, exit strategy. So if you want to
Yep.
exit as an owner, if you don't want the business to be dependent on you, you want to be able to walk out and actually your legacy to continue and be successful, it's very important to have processes documented.
Absolutely.
All right, so this is the number one question that I'm always being asked is where do I start? It
Hmm.
can sound like this overwhelming, too much to do, don't know where to start, so therefore I will never start. You know what I mean? I mean, have you ever
Yeah.
experienced that?
Sometimes people are inexperienced or they're afraid to start too.
That's exactly right, because you don't know where. So here is the number one question that we ask in order to start any process documentation project. Here's the question. What area of the company, if there were well-documented processes and procedures for that area, will give you the biggest ROI? So for our audience right now,
Mm.
look at that question and what is your answer? You can put it in the chat. You
Mm.
can write it on a piece of paper, but what is the immediate answer?
Oh, I'll
Now,
interact with you right now. I'll say sales, right?
yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, some people have sales dialed in and it's not a problem. It might be that, for instance, you have the service department is not doing as well. You're getting a lot of
Mhm.
callbacks and it's costing you
Yeah,
a lot of money.
that's
It
true.
might be that your main accounting person is living in a month and you don't know what to do. It
Mm.
might be that you are being asked constantly questions in a certain area that you feel like if you had well documented processes, you'll get your time back. And that's where we have to define biggest ROI.
Wow.
What is our biggest ROI? What is ROI? Of course, it will all come down to profit, but ROI can be the hours that you will gain back because you do not have the time to spend with your family right now. It might be the ROI is the knowledge that you actually can document and capture, that will be increase the value of your business.
Hmm.
It might be the lost opportunities because you do not have the time to work on your business and you're getting pulled into your business that is preventing you from capturing the opportunities that are out there.
Yep.
So once you decide where to start, the next step is to do the process mapping. This is the design phase. It
Hmm.
is very important. It is time well spent because then you have it all mapped and designed. Now, why am I saying, like, you might say that our listeners or audience saying, well, I don't know how to map the process. Well,
Hmm.
any mapping is better than no mapping. So I'm not
That's
talking
true.
about here about any specific ideas, I mean, any specific methodology. Just take a piece of paper or go on the computer on any software that you can use in order to map, or like, for instance, we like to use Miro.com. There is the free version of it. It's like sticky notes that you put there and put, or a flow chart. And think about a process where you said sales. Great. What is the process mapping of sales? It starts from lead generate, I mean, or the lead is being generated. So receiving the lead,
Hmm.
qualifying the lead. What questions are you asking to qualify? So you write qualifying the lead. Okay, here is what we need to do in order to qualify the lead. Then from qualification of the lead, then it will go to some kind of an estimating or inspection or whatever you do in order to find out more information.
Hmm.
Then from there, it will be creating the estimate, presenting the estimate, closing the deal, follow up, hand off to production. Right there, you have a process map. So once it's mapped, then you know what are the areas we have to dig into in order to document correctly.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to start taking notes right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the third step, so we have now the process map. So now we need to document, we need to get it done. So you see right here, we have all these puzzle pieces. We have to put all the pieces together so we can actually have a documented process. And what does it mean getting it done? So let me give you some best practices and ideas. So first of all, you have to make the decision. Okay, you have to make the decision that you are going to do it, because it is pretty, as you said, we get distracted by so many things. There is production will always take priority, selling, fires that happen that you have to put out, whatever it is, you have to make a decision that in order to get from that day-to-day cope and chasing your own actions, that you have to make a decision. That's it. I'm going to systematize in order for me to have a sane approach to my business. You need to keep the eye on the mountain. That's why you have to refer to your why. Is it
Hmm.
because you want to exit and you want to double, triple the value of your business? Is it because you know you need to hire and you want to onboard correctly? Whatever your why is, keep an eye on it. Don't let it go. Make it a priority. So that's another best practice. You have to make this a priority. It's a
Hmm.
finite project. It doesn't have to take forever, but you have to be thinking with, you know what? I want to get it done. I am going to get it done. So therefore, I have to make this a priority.
Absolutely.
Now, accountability, this is the word we all like, but you need to be
Hmm.
accountable. If you say you're going to document, then you have to be prepared to show to your team that you're actually doing it. Show
Yeah.
up and say, this is what I've done. It's commitment. You have to have commitment to the process. And you got to recognize obstacles. There are going to be obstacles. There are
Hmm.
going to be shiny objects that will take your attention. There are going to be, again, fires and disasters and emergencies that you will need to handle. You will have people that might object to it. I have a client, we start working with them, and that's not usual, not typical, but I'm going to tell the story is that we started to work with them, and they had 3 staff members just quit because they did not want to be held accountable. But you know
Wow.
what? The owner did a fantastic job. They embraced the change, and we helped them post the right job ads with the right job descriptions, with the right processes. And they got an amazing team that they always dreamed about, because, Stephen, they already recognized before that those team members were not really who they needed to play the game with. They were not the right people. So you need to recognize the obstacles, that you might discover things that are not going to be necessarily easy to confront, but that
Hmm.
might happen.
Yeah.
And then we come to getting it done. Okay, so it is something that you will need to sit down and do it, but you do not need to do it by yourself. You definitely can and should utilize your team. So here are some recommendations I want to give. Use project management tools.
Hmm.
We like to use ClickUp. You can use Asana, Monday.com, perhaps even just a Word document where you are going to write how you're going to get it done. What are the processes you need to document? Remember the process mapping we did.
Hmm.
And what are the sub steps you're going to do? When are you going to do it? Who are you going to assign it to? I know it sounds a little bit complicated, but it's really not.
Yeah.
Our audience here are all very, experienced contractors or business owners, entrepreneurs. You've done more difficult things. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of organizing.
That's it.
Yeah. I highly recommend using a process documentation software like Sweet Process, Trenial, etc., because
Okay.
that will make your life easier. Do not store your processes and procedures in a Google Drive or a OneDrive, because that will be a mess. It will be hard to find. It won't be consistent. It won't be the same. And that way you will have really good version control, and it will be accessible for everyone. And we will talk about accessibility in a few slides here to explain the importance of it in order to get the processes documented, followed by all. You got to have regular update meetings. If you start on a project, you have those meetings, you meet together, you go, okay, where are we at? For instance, when we work with clients, we have a weekly meeting, and then we send a recap, and we send a summary of what we documented, what was done, and we discuss it. So everyone is aware of the progress. You got to set due dates, because if you don't set due dates, then the target just goes forever and never gets done. And you have to have a champion. You have to have somebody who will follow up what was done and what was not done.
Yeah.
And then that person should be accountable to report it. So if you, for instance, have an L10 meeting or some kind of a follow-up or coordination meeting, you should show up for that in order to follow up of where things are at. And each person, each subject matter expert that has targets to complete should be held accountable to report to the group where they're at.
Very true.
Yeah. And now, many entrepreneurs think that they need to do it by themselves, but they don't, and they shouldn't. You really need to utilize your team. You have expert people on your team that probably know the processes better than you do.
Yep.
Today, I was talking to one of our clients. They have a window and door company. And I asked him about a process, and he goes, I don't really know how it's being done. This is something my production manager knows. So we went and asked the production manager. But now everybody will know, because it will be written and it will be documented and flashed out. But don't do it by yourself. Find on your team those people that you would like to clone, those people that inspire you, those people that know perhaps more than you do, and get them to document, extract the information from them, so then you will be able to use it. But again, this project is not going to get done if you take it all upon yourself and do not have collaboration.
100% right. I think that's sometimes one of the biggest problems too, as entrepreneurs and business owners, is that, sometimes we want to wear all the hats, but utilizing your team is one of the most important things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes I'm being asked, okay, so if I have several team members that are wearing the same hat, how do I do that? Well, I'll give you an example. We were documenting a property management company. We had 9 different property managers for that particular department. Yeah, it was a big company. We identify 27 procedures. So if we have 9 property managers, it sounds like like one of those algebra word problems in school.
Yeah.
So if we have 27 procedures and we have 9 property managers, so each one would be responsible for 3 procedures.
Yeah.
So you get each one to pick, or you assign 3 procedures. I like basically to show all the procedures, and then whomever raise their hand saying, I'm an expert at that or that or that. So they pick their 3. If not, you assign. And then each one of them wrote the procedures. Then what we did is that was presented to the group. So each property manager would then have to read another 24 procedures that were not theirs, so they were not responsible to write. But it's much easier because they can just read through it and make notes.
Absolutely.
And then we had a meeting, a very controlled meeting. We basically had 90 minutes, and we said, okay, so we are going to have, a few minutes per procedure, so we can get through all of them, about 2 or 3 minutes per procedure. After you already do the homework, we're just going to then decide if there is anything that we need to discuss as a group, or maybe make notes for us to look at. But that way, there was the collaboration of looking at the entire procedures by the entire group, but everyone participating. So that is a good example of how it can be done, where it's collaborative and everyone participates.
I love it.
Good. The next step is we want to make sure that everyone can use those procedures, and we all have different styles and methods of learning. Like,
Mhm.
Stephen, do you like watching videos or do you prefer reading instructions?
I think I'm more visual.
A lot of people are more visual. I
Mhm.
like the combination of both because if, like, for instance, if I'm looking for instructions for something, I
Mhm.
don't want to watch a 5-minute video, especially on YouTube, that at the beginning they just give all
Yeah,
this story and whatnot. I want to go to okay, tell me right
what
to
to
the
do.
point. So I like to have the transcripts together with the video. So if I want to watch something, I can. But if I want to just refresh my memory or if I want to understand the instructions, I like the reading. So that's why it's very important to have the combination of visuals. So you can have screenshots, you can have pictures, read and write. So instructions, video will not substitute instructions. However, we don't want to write books and books of instructions because nobody's going to read it. So everything has to be very well balanced. So maybe some instructions, visuals like screenshots or pictures, auditory, so and visual together. It can be a video, it can be something that they can listen. And kinesthetic is touching. What does that mean? All right, well, if you have forms, upload the forms so then it can be downloaded and actually looked at, or
Hmm.
write specific instructions that people can go and execute. If you are doing an onboarding process, make sure that you also include instructions to go and talk to people, meet people, go to this room, go here, go there, like specific actions that people can actually touch, feel, see, that not
I get.
only involve instructions. So make sure that that happens. Then you want to make sure that everybody reviews it. You want it to be reviewed by the leadership team. Don't just keep it for yourself.
Hmm.
So those instructions were written by the team members. We want to make sure that the entire leadership team is aware of the processes and procedures, even if it doesn't pertain to their department. Because after all, the leadership team is still responsible for the entire organization. And you want to make sure that you all align in terms of your processes and procedures. That is how it's going to be followed by all.
So I have a question here. So let's say if, we need to systematize and perfect our procedures and our operations, but we're missing something, but we don't know what it is. Do you help us come in and say,
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. And you just read my mind because, and it's true because Stephen actually did not see the slide deck beforehand. But
Uh,
that's where the money is at. That's
mm,
where the profit is at. And this is the fun part. This is the optimization. This is finding what's missing and creating those procedures. This is the use of technology. I'm being asked a lot, what about AI? What about technology?
mm,
Well, first of all, let's identify the process. Let's identify the step-by-step procedures. Then let's figure out how we can use technology to elevate it to the next level. For instance, the example I gave, when you have somebody that has all the knowledge and the knowledge is in their heads, let's extract that knowledge. Let's create an AI knowledge base so everyone in the company can ask those questions and get the answers. But in order
mm.
to get the answers, you have to actually extract that information and make sure that then it's accessible.
I
Or
love it.
maybe there is a process here that is very manual, takes a lot of time. You're bleeding money. You are basically taking money. Money is just going down the drain here because you are not efficient enough. Let's see how we
Hmm.
can use technology in order to reduce your expenses. Not only reducing expenses, but it's also missed opportunities.
Hmm.
Because if the process is not optimized and you're spending a lot of time doing it, you don't have time to create strategies and create all the opportunities.
Yep.
We have obviously on this one, we have methodologies on how to optimize, how to improve, how to extract best practices, how we make sure that we are doing the best that we can. Now, this is the question. What's the difference between success and failure in terms of a process documentation project? What do you think, Stephen? Putting you on a spot.
Wow. That's a really good question. I would say what sets something aside from success and failure when it comes to documentation is the ability to execute the specific goals.
Spot on, spot on. And that is what it is. It's the implementation.
Mhm.
Because we can document as many processes as we would like, but if we don't actually implement it, we're not going to be successful. So here are some advice that I'm going to give about how to implement and make sure
Mhm.
the processes are followed by all. I do have a whole presentation, which I actually did in person at your wonderful mastermind in Houston, about the steps on how to make sure processes are being followed by all. So that can be like a longer presentation. Here, I'm just going to give you the highlights. So we have to make it accessible. We have to give the key to the kingdom, to the knowledge. We have to open the knowledge and make sure that everybody can actually access each and every one of the procedures that pertain to them. In order to best doing that is to use a process documentation software. It is a one single source of truth that everyone knows that if they go there, this is the ABC company way of doing things. That's why I'm saying let's stay away from random Word documents, where
Mhm.
random Google Doc documents, whatnot, because that is not going to get us to where we want to go.
Yep, yep.
So we give the keys to success. Well, this is how we are going to ensure that we have the keys to success. We have to publish the documentation. We have to train everybody. And I know you go, duh, of course. But you know that the number one thing that I find when people tell me, oh, yeah, we documented all of our processes and procedures, and but they're not being used. So I ask them, well, how did you publish them? Oh, well, they are somewhere on the computer. Well, okay, so that's number one. We have to make it accessible, published.
Yeah.
We have to train everybody, at least get them to read it, because if we don't, then we can't really utilize it.
Yep.
We have to make sure that they are part of the culture, that we are creating a process-driven culture. And I have a whole presentation about that on how to create, what does it mean to be a process-driven leader? There are specific traits, there are specific actions that you have to do, specific
Mhm.
mindset. And for those of you that are interested in that, I can send you a link to a recording of a workshop that I've done on how to make it part of the culture. It's very important. And you gotta review them regularly, because procedures and processes are living, breathing documents. Things change all the time, but the main things do not change. So it's not like all the time we have the change, but there is change. So therefore, we have to make sure that we are reviewing them regularly in order for us to make sure that they're staying up to date. And that way, they will always be relevant, they will always be up to date,
Mhm.
and then people will continue to refer to them.
Absolutely.
And that's my advice of how to run a process documentation project. If you have any questions, feel free to scan this QR code and schedule a free process assessment with me. You can
Mhm.
email me, you can call or text this number. And now I would like to open it for Q&A for our audience to ask me anything that they would like to ask about how to document your processes and procedures, optimize, and how to make sure that they are being followed by all.
Perfect. Let's open it up to the Q&A then.
Excellent.